Thank you, Rabbi. Good Yontif, everyone. A finger on the record button of my prized stereo tape deck. I quietly sat on the floor of my bedroom. I was in 5th or 6th grade, on the verge of becoming a teenager. You can imagine the reasons a typical preteen might retreat to their room, closing the door behind them. Alone, needing a break from the unjust world around me, I tuned in to another frequency, 92.9 Z93, the radio station that brought me in touch with another world. Calling into the station, I made a request. And I was well aware that it was a request quite different from the music request of my peers. A finger on the record button of my prized stereo tape deck. I would listen until my request was answered, and then captured on a cassette tape. I would play that anthem over and over again when I needed to think, when I needed a fresh perspective, when I was lonely or overwhelmed, when I couldn't sleep. That song was like a meditation. That song, From a Distance, sung by Bette Midler. Okay. It was around 1990, and the 90s were cheesy, but I was an old soul, and that song spoke to me. From a distance, the world looks blue and green, and the snow-capped mountains white. From a distance, the ocean meets the stream, and the eagle takes to flight. From a distance, there is harmony, and it echoes through the land. It's the voice of hope. It's the voice of peace. It's the voice of every man. A beautiful view from on high when things seem to be swirling around in chaos. These words still speak to me at a time when we're all so wrapped up in this notion of distancing. Physical distancing, social distancing, 3 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet. Close proximity right now is not safe, so we're commanded, keep your distance. Having to remain distant has forced us to do almost everything we do differently. Just last week, I sat outside with a woman in mourning who suffered a terrible loss. All I wanted to do was give her a hug. I have witnessed my child wanting to lead an apprehensive new student into her school, hesitating when she remembered that she couldn't just take her by the hand. Instead of complaining and wallowing in the fact that we cannot enjoy closeness and proximity, I've decided this year that I'm going to find the beauty and blessing in distance. After all, distance is relative, right? There has to be something positive about it. On Yom Kippur, we are commanded to distance ourselves from 5 things: eating and drinking, wearing leather footwear, bathing, applying cosmetics, and engaging in sexual intimacy. These are restrictions unique to Yom Kippur. For on Yom Kippur, we are likened to the angels who have no physical needs, but maintain a close connection to God. Notice what I just said. By nature, they are distanced from the physical, but as close as anyone could possibly be to God. Physical distance, spiritual connection. Our mystical tradition teaches us that by briefly distancing our relationship with our body, for example, by not eating, especially in a way that we typically enjoy, we maintain a deeper connection with the soul. When a person eats, they are nourished by an outside source, the food and the drink they ingest. On a fast day, vitality has to come from the soul, from energy already stored within. In other words, it takes us distancing ourselves from that which is typical in order to reach a new height, gain a new perspective, and become closer to God. It's not an easy thing to do, to distance, even for a short while, from that which is usually life-giving, but it is necessary in order to experience a shift of perspective. I am reminded of the story of Balaam from the book of Numbers, chapter 22, when an enemy king hires Balaam to curse the Israelite people. Balaam, however, is told by God, "You shall not curse that people, for they are blessed." But when Balaam sees the Israelite people, not once, but 3 times, he defies the king's orders and blesses the people. It is from this high vantage point, from a mountain, that Balaam blesses the people. Rashi notes that it is precisely Balaam's perspective that gives him the ability to bless the people. From a distance, Balaam can see not just the individual tents of each tribe, but the entire nation. From a distance, he sees that their tent openings do not face each other. Only from a distance can he see that they value common decency and privacy. This is why Rashi says that Balaam proclaims the blessing as "Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov." How good are your tents, your dwelling places, O Israel. From a distance, there is harmony, and it echoes through the land. It's the voice of hope. It's the voice of peace. Distance is indeed a blessing. Ironically, at times, it gives us the ability to see something better than when we can see it up close. I just learned something new about my beloved song, From a Distance, in studying and researching for this sermon. It actually wasn't written by Bette Midler. It was written by another Jewish woman, Julie Gold. And she experienced a distance moment of breakthrough herself. In 1978, at the age of 22, Gold moved to New York City to pursue her dream of becoming a songwriter. But as she said, dreams do not pay the rent. So she had to work various temp jobs at night. She demonstrated vacuum cleaners, Mr. Coffees, and toaster ovens. She worked at flea markets and in a Venetian blinds factory. She struggled not just financially, but desperately with self-doubt and fear. Just before her 30th birthday in 1985, her parents sent her the piano that she grew up playing. She took the day off work to be home when the piano, her truest love and friend, arrived. Back together again after all those years. The piano came into her little one-room apartment and fit into the only place it could. But the movers told her that since it had been on the truck for over 24 hours, she needed to give it a chance to settle. They told her not to play it for a day. So there we were in the same room, unable to make music, she said. She sat with the piano, polished it, and then went to bed, looking at the piano all night to make sure that it was really there. The next day, she sat down, and the words and the melody of From a Distance poured out of her. Julie said, on one hand, it took 2 hours to write. On the other, it took 30 years. Hello, Distance, the artist of passion and love, perspective and clarity. My mom, God bless her, is no stranger to distance. Having endured an auto stem cell transplant less than 2 years ago, she was required to isolate herself for months at a time when social distancing was not yet a thing. Yet she wrote me the other day, "This is the longest I've ever gone without seeing you and our delicious Boston grandbabies, but it is the most we have ever FaceTimed." Hosting Bubby Camp through the iPad, reading, beading, drawing, crafting, storytelling, all from a distance. Havdalah family Zoom every week, guitar song sessions, now more frequent, even on FaceTime, makes a day brighter. My more local grandchildren text and video call all the time. This is certainly an outgrowth of less in-person visits and hugs. Yes, less hugs, but more words. They say, I love you, Bubby. I miss you, Bubby. A heart breaks from the distance, yet from a distance, it bursts with love. And I have to admit that I, like almost all of us living through this pandemic, have also had many moments of heartbreak this spring and summer. You may not know that my husband, Doug, is immunocompromised. Thank God he's healthy day to day. However, our family has needed to be very cautious in our daily interactions and decisions relating to work and school. While we may have gotten used to the physical distance, the masks, paying attention to airflow, it's been extraordinarily isolating, socially and emotionally. I am not just an extreme extrovert, but deep within the core of my being, I thrive on closeness and intimacy. In fact, I crave connection. And it really hurts inside not to be able to experience that. I acknowledge as I teach tonight that I'm not asking us to do something easy. Stepping back to find perspective and connection at such a difficult time is really hard. I've even tried to convince myself that it's not. In fact, it is a few of you who have helped me realize this and even grow in these difficult moments. For you have so sweetly asked me if I'm okay, because while I'm a bit separate, I'm in my office and not in the sanctuary. While Gan Elohim has returned to school, but my child cannot, well, I cannot participate in a way that I want as your child becomes bar bat mitzvah. You have said that I appear to be sad. And the truth is that I am. While I want to answer, it's okay. In reality, this is hard. And it hurts. But then do you know what I find myself saying? I'm really grateful. For I know how hard Stephen, our executive director, and Emily, our facilities manager, Devin and Max, and our entire staff have worked just to make it possible for me to be in my office alone tonight. But I'm not alone. I'm in the building. And I have our student intern, Zach, waving at me through the closed door every 5 minutes. And I have all of you here on Zoom. And I can hear and see without delay, even through a screen, what is happening in the sanctuary and even in your own homes. I feel safe here, and I feel like I am being true to my values, and I'm thankful to be able to honor the needs of my family and to keep others safe as well. So thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Emily, and all of you for caring so much. Thank you for caring so much to take the extra time and energy to work so hard. And thank you to our rabbis and our cantor for leading the bar mitzvah services that are in the sanctuary so I can lead the ones on Zoom. And thank you to the Gan Elohim family for continuing to express their excitement that Oren will return to school when the time is right. From a distance, I stand. From the painful distance, I stand from you. I still see love and caring and empathy. And my goal is to hold on to it, even when I feel isolated. I pray the same for you. This year, may distance be our teacher. I know we will continue to feel the ache of distance in our hearts. We will feel the hunger pangs of distance in our bodies. We will feel the emptiness of distance in our souls. But sometimes, I pray, distance will help us grow, will help us to achieve, to know gratitude, to learn, and yes, sometimes it will take distance to connect more deeply. Today, on this day of Yom Kippur, you will feel that distance. but may you embrace it and work through it, and in this coming year be inscribed in the book of life and blessing with a new perspective to accompany you. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will.
Ken Yehi Ratzon.